Hi again guys, and so we've got another special projects build for you today, but this time it's not strictly speaking a replica. This is actually a custom build, and I've built this car kind of as a tribute to existing models, although it itself isn't currently a real car. And as you'll have seen from the title, this is a build of the BMW M4, but of a fictional CSL version. Now, for those who are unfamiliar with the CSL stands for Club Sport Lightweight, and it comes from, I believe originally the E46 M3 was the first time that it was used, and it had a carbon fibre roof, slightly different body kit overall, and slightly improved performance. It was basically a more hardcore version of the M3. We don't currently have one of these of the M4. We have the GTS, of course, which is the even beyond version, the even more hardcore version, but we don't have a slightly upgraded, more collectible, higher performance version with modest performance, but still increased. So that's what I've done. I've taken a tribute, if you will, from the E46 M3 CSL and represented what that could be like on an M4. So as you can see, I've gone relatively understated on the visuals. I have gone for a particular colour and body package, so we will go over to the visual tuning garage to run through those things. Being a fictional car, of course, there's a lot of room for personal variation. Then we will go to the tuning garage for my fictional tune setup of what a car like this could be like. And then finally, of course, we'll take it out to the track to see how it feels, how it performs, and if it feels like a good addition to the range. Now, as I said, for the visuals, I have chosen to go more understated rather than over the top, because with the M4 you do of course have some quite showy body kits, but I've opted for the body kit that adds the quite subtle chin splitter at the front, just to make it look a little bit sportier. For the rear wing, again I've opted to go upgraded but in an understated way, like the CSL, with the special wing, which is a little ducktail style carbon fibre lip wing on the trunk or the boot. And in our other settings I've opted to change the kind of dumb looking, I think, chrome grille, which doesn't suit the car at all in my opinion, to this carbon fibre grille. For the rims, as you'll have noticed, I left those stock because they look really good anyway. I haven't fitted any additional meters on this one, but that's down to personal preference. The main reason why I haven't done that is because they look kind of tacky in my opinion, no pun intended. And for the colour of the car, obviously being a fictional vehicle you can go for pretty much whatever colour you want. I've chosen to go for the kind of colour that I could see actually being on a car like this, which is a colour called Rosenholz, which is from the Mercedes SL500 or the SL600 of, I'm not sure if it's only the older generation, but at least the older generation car you can get that from, the R129 shape. As you can see, it's quite a different colour to what you'd usually expect on something like an M4, but the reason why I did that is I took inspiration from the grey kind of colours, the metallic greys, the carbon colours of the existing CSL, and kind of interpreted that into what a modern one could look like, with kind of dulled colours, grey and beigeish tones that make it kind of understated, which is kind of what the CSL is all about, increasing the performance but in an understated, tasteful way. So that's it overall for the visual setup. I haven't painted the brakes, as you'll see in a moment, they're just naturally that colour, which I think goes pretty well with the rest of the car. So we'll now go straight over to the mechanical tuning garage. Now, as many of you who have been on the channel before will know, I do like to make my builds as PP rounded off and as relevant as possible. Thankfully, this one rounds off really nicely to 525 PP, and of course this is not a real car, so I gave it specs like my interpretation of what the Huayra BC could have been like, which actually wasn't that far off the real car, of what I believe a Club Sport lightweight version could be like in terms of power and weight. So I haven't gone insane with it. I've increased the power up, as you can see, to 460 horsepower, just a modest increase, and I've reduced the weight by around 45-47 kilos to 1450, because that's the kind of drop you'd expect to see. Being a production car, you don't see massive drops in weight from these kind of vehicles, so just a modest drop in weight. As far as the tyres, I've gone for Sport Softs because it is of course more of a production model. We've left the brakes stock, as I said just now, that's why you don't need to paint them. For the suspension, we've got the ride height on 120 front and rear. Springs we've rounded up a little bit to 475 and 650. The dampers and anti-roll we've left on 3, because although you want it to feel a little bit more taut than the standard M4, you don't want it to feel like a race car. We're still trying to give it kind of a production car feel. We've gone for neutral camber and tow because you just don't need it. For the diff, we've got the lowest initial torque, highest acceleration and braking, and as with the brakes, I've left the clutch, flywheel and prop shaft as standard to keep it a little bit more authentic to a road car. For the power, of course it's not a real car, so you can go for whatever power you want technically, but if you want the power that I've gone for, you need an oil change and the sports exhaust, and then just reduce the power down to 99.5%. As far as the weight, I've given it the stage 1 weight loss package and given it a 88 kilo ballast to bring us up to 1450 kilos. I'm also running the full downforce on that little ducktail spoiler, and for the gearbox, I've personally opted to leave it stock because you wouldn't see a huge amount of difference between a car like this and the gears of the existing M4. You could of course tune those if you want to, but it does a pretty good job anyway. You've got 7 gears to work with and it's not a top speed tune anyway. So that's it for my fictional build of what an M4 CSL I believe could be like. But now let's prove it. Let's take it out to the Nürburgring GP course to see how it handles and how it performs. Now, being a fictional model, of course, there's not much of a point of reference to compare this car to, but I personally really like the way that this car turned out. The power and the weight feel perfect, I think, for this car. Even on the sports tyres with no camber, the handling is fantastic. It controls itself extremely well, which is exactly what you'd expect from a CSL version. And to me, it looks like a faithful interpretation of what a CSL could be like, with that little extra wing on the back, like the CSL had, the updated front bumper, again, like the CSL had, and the natural colours of the dulled body with the carbon fibre roof, which again is what the older CSL was fitted with. So if you decide to use this fictional interpretation, my personal interpretation of what a CSL could be like on the M4, obviously I hope you find it fun, and it's definitely a competitive car at the 525 pp level. But if you'd like more tunes like this in the future, as soon as they're released, be sure to hit subscribe down below for that. And for now, as always, thanks for watching.